another episode on the Afrocentrist podcast, and on this particular segment, the Coaching Corner. And today on the show, I have a sister in the house. Yes, it's my big sis. I've been wanting this thing since last year to host her on this podcast. The last time she was here, we didn't have enough time together to do this. And so this time I'm like, hey sis, you aren't going anywhere. And it's such a perfect timing because as at then, she would have just told us her story, because I would probably have featured her on the segment called The Woman, Her Story, Her Impact. But God's so good. This is so perfect because now I have this new segment called the Coaching Corner, and she's an exceptional coach. I mean, I've been with her or I sat with her, and every conversation with her ends up being a coaching session. She's just so sold out and so passionate about what she does. I remember us being in a meeting with somebody, and it was just supposed to be an ordinary meeting. It turned into a whole session. Like, that's how passionate she is. She is an identity and communications coach. And today we're going to be zoning into what she does as a coach. This is what the segment is for. She's going to be telling us what area of coaching she covers. But one area that I have heard her speak about so deeply, so in-depth that it touches me, is the area of dealing with trauma. So this is where the conversation is going to go towards. But before we go into that topic, she's going to tell us a little more about herself and her coaching. All right? So sit back, relax. Don't go anywhere. This is about to get fun. In fact, I have a feeling that this is going to be in 2 parts, but let's see. I don't know, okay? So stay tuned, and I'll be right back with my guests. Welcome back, and my guest is here. Guess what? I know I didn't call her name in that introduction, but you're going to read all about her profile because she has a very, very long profile. Very, very long, like this. It's an episode, right? I don't want to read that on the show because I want to maximize time on the show. I wanted to capture everything that I wanted to capture. So she's known as StephRedd. Look at her now. Gorgeous mama. Hey!
You know what you call that mama thing? It don't makes me feel very old. Just say gorgeous babe.
Gorgeous babe.
Thanks. You wake better like that.
Awesome stuff. How are you, StephRedd?
Fantastic.
Oh, so good to finally have you on the show.
Thank you. So one corner of my mind, I was actually thinking, when is Ejiro going to invite me? Or she's inviting me.
Hey, you forget that time when we come for December for last year.
I was not one.
I was like, when are we going to do it? Before we knew, holiday was over. So this time around, I'm like, your feet are bouncing the Lord. It's bouncing. She's been bouncing all about town. And I was saying, okay, this one you bounce onto the show.
Okay,
so it's awesome. So great to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Awesome. So please, I'll leave you to tell us about Stephredd. Number one, why StephRedd? What's all this red about? It's in the blood of Jesus. Tell us.
So I am Stephanie Ogenevede Kadiri. And please call me StephRedd. Why? Because Steph is the short version of Stephanie. Red is my favorite color with an extra D, just for the emphasis. So StephRedd. So every time you say StephRedd, or every time I hear StephRedd, I'm reminded of my love for the color red. And hey, it just all fits together for me. Yes.
Did anything instigate this love for red? Like, do you remember any story that made red stand out of all the colors? It could have been purple, it could have been yellow, pink.
I like that you said that. I like that you said that, and telling that story may immediately lead us into talking about our issue for today, which is trauma. And if you want me to go there, I'll just go there. Okay, right. So it was in 2016. This 2022. That's 6 years ago. I decided to. I just finished my entire. That was the year I became certified as a coach, and I had begun to intentionally track my patterns and my behaviors to recognize, because behaviors are learned. Now there's some that are transferred by DNA, there are some that you're born with, but behaviors are particularly learned. So there I am trying to find out, how did I start loving red? So it was Christmas, and typically by Christmas we have this end of year Thanksgiving where we wear native, and I made a red lace native, right? So a university friend, I posted it on. I took a picture with a lady putting on an Indian sari, pink and purple and pink and blue, pink, blue, and some shades of purple, and I was wearing a red native. And then my friend Diana just posts a comment on Instagram and says, Stephanie, which other color would you wear on Thanksgiving, even if not red? Red girl. And she put laughter there. And when she said red girl, I was like,
actually,
how did I start living red? So I began to question. One of the things that have helped me thus far, not just as a coach or a therapist, as a person, but also as a human being, is questioning my behavior, questioning my thoughts and questioning my patterns. So I asked myself, how did I start loving red? I didn't always love red. When was the first time? And I remembered in that instance that as a child, I used to love pink. But then in that present, in 2016, as I'm remembering, I now hated pink with a passion. And then I remembered then that when my husband and I, before we got married, were asking about preferences, and I said I hate pink, that if we're ever going to have a girl, I was not going to get her anything pink. That I could do the blues, the purple, I could do the yellows and the violets and purples and the browns, but definitely not pink. I felt it was just to, in our word, it was yoko. It was somehow, it was eerie. So in that instant, I'm like, when did I start hating pink? And when did I start loving red? So just asking all those questions. And then the first memory I could remember for the red was, growing up, I always wanted to get married to an Indian. Ooh. I was always watching Indian movies. I was learning their songs. I was learning their language. All of it. I was learning their dance. I was learning everything.
Oh, wow.
And I was looking forward to getting married to my Indian beau one day.
Wow.
That was all sometimes I used to dream of myself running around a tree or whoever he was going to be, right, wearing my red sari. Oh. Because the wedding outfit for the Indian woman is not a white outfit. It's a red sari. From all the Indian movies I watched, the man always wore white and the woman wore red. So I was looking forward to wearing my red sari. And that, it's a programming, a progressive programming just led me to start loving red, and I didn't realize how much I loved it.
Wow.
So it was then such that when I was going to get married, when we planned for our wedding, I wanted to wear a red wedding gown. But in that instant, I didn't know.
Oh, wow.
I wanted a red wedding gown. I was looking for, my husband said he didn't mind. Said so long as if people just didn't say no, call your wedding. Right? And I was like, hey, if they don't want to come, those that love me will come. Now that's how it's going to be. So, but that was pretty much it. And I recognized that, wow, eventually I wore red shoes for my wedding. It had a red lace somewhere. I had carried red bouquet. Because the person that made my wedding gown said no, she's not going to make a red wedding gown. She was like, how can you wear wedding day has to be white, right?
Who says?
But then I just ensured that the deck of my wedding ambience, it actually looked like a shrine. Right? It was red. Our colors for the day were red, silver, and a touch of white. Oh, wow. But that was pretty much. I now identified. Oh, so what I now asked myself was, is it good or is it bad? It's a good thing, right? So I could stick with the red. I still love it. I still have an undying love for it. Red. But then I now ask myself in that instant, how did I start hating pink? Part of, and these are questions where we need to ask ourselves, how do we become? How do we evolve in this process? Why am I doing the things I'm doing? And I started backtracking. I remember I used to love pink as a child because on my 7th birthday, my father took me to a supermarket, to Kingsway supermarket then, and said, pick anything you want from the clothes section. I picked a pink shirt, I remember very well, with a collar buttoned up all the way at the back and a little puff sleeve and a blue pair of jeans. It was Easter period. My birthday always falls around Easter. All my siblings were home. So we took a family picture in that outfit, in my pink top and my blue jeans. And that was it. 6 days later, April 18th, my father died in a Gatling motor accident.
Oh my gosh.
And it was that period in the 80s where a particular sitcom used to reign. Willy Willy.
Hey.
And that Willy Willy don't die and actually kill him, right? They said he was killed by his friends who thought he was doing too well and wanted to take his wealth. And the story we heard then, when we went to the process of burying my father, was that he was killed by some people that knew him in his family and around him. So my mind was just like, oh, just the way Willy Willy's spirit was roaming. Because it said Willy Willy's spirit was not resting because he wanted to kill all the avenge his death. So I'm like, so my father probably too wants to avenge his death.
Wow.
And so his spirit will be roaming around. So for every time I picked up the pink shirt, I was afraid
That he would.
that his spirit was around.
Oh, wow.
And I progressively connected his death
To that pink.
to the pink shirt.
Whoa.
So, and as a child, I didn't know how to grieve that. And even growing up, we had to immediately adjust because we fell from grace to grass. So immediately adjusting. So all I could remember was I hated pink. My secondary school, I went to a secondary school where we were eventually wearing pink, and I hated that we had to wear it. I couldn't wait so the uniform was pink, but day wear was different. I was happy not to be in the house where they wore pink. When I was in Federal Onitsha, there was a house where they wore pink. I was happy not to be in that house. And then when I went to move to Federal Benin, our uniform was pink.
Wow.
I hated that I had to wear it and I couldn't wait to take it off. But then when I could now take charge of my choices, I was like, I'm never gonna wear you. You are a very, very useless color. But then it was attached to, it's a weak color. It's because another thing was now, my mother she said she had to be firm, she had to be strong. She doesn't want anybody to think she's weak because she doesn't have a husband. She had to stand strong for her children. And I had unconsciously always heard that pink is a soft color. It's considered as a girl color. So anything soft will
be taken advantage of.
Yes, will be taken as being weak. And I do not want to be weak. Aside that, I do not want to remember the memory of my father's death. So over the years, my coping mechanism was hatred.
For pain.
And I had actually forgotten that source. So it was when I started asking myself questions that I recognized that the trauma of my father's death was tied to that pink.
Wow.
So what I did was, okay, is this going to do good or bad? Pink didn't do anything to me. So I needed to break it. So what I did was I went on Jumia shopping app and I bought a pink set of pair of sneakers. Not original pink, just a bit of blush pink, not too striking, so that it wouldn't overwhelm me. But then even when I brought it and brought it to the house, my husband was like, pink sneakers?
How?
That's it first.
What's going on here?
Right? He just said that's it first, but I was like, yes, I'm trying to overcome it. So interestingly, I hadn't told him the backstory. He just knew I hated pink. Wow. So seeing me with the pink pair of sneakers, I was like, what's happening, right? So for him, it was just like, okay, that's it first. I was like, yeah, just trying to break it. But I hadn't told him that this was the backstory. But I was trying to get out of it myself as least as I could. I thought I had up until 2021 when I went for a team bonding meeting with a colleague of mine where we were pretty much handling team bonding session in another town. And then I forgot my towel and I forgot my toothbrush. So my colleague says, okay, he's going into town, he will help me get it. And then he bought me a toothbrush and got me
a pink towel.
The original pink that God made. Original pink. Not a blush pink. No, he got me pink. And as soon as I saw it, when he sent the driver to bring it to my room, when he gave it to me, I dropped it on the table. And I marched out of the room, go and meet him, like, Victor, why did you give me a pink towel? Why did you? And then in that moment, I caught myself. I was aggressing towards him. And I just told myself, it's not him.
It's not him.
It's
wow.
you.
Wow.
So he now said, sorry, now I thought babes like pink. And I just said, sorry, I would explain later. So I went back to my room.
Started looking at this
and
towel.
I'm looking at the towel. So I told myself, this night I go bath, body go dry.
Without using this towel. Wow.
And then I looked around, I was like, I have a face towel, right? Let me just use a face towel. And then another thing was, you have to face this. So the towel was still in the wrapper. So I brought it out from the wrapper and threw it on the bed. Yes. And then I took the chair and sat by it and I was looking at it. That was the first time I recognized the depth of trauma.
Ooh.
That was the first time.
Wow.
My father died in 1987. I was 7.
Wow.
I was 41. So the first time I recognized it, I was 36 when I bought the pink pair of sneakers. But I didn't realize that I hadn't dealt with it until 41. And then I'm looking at it on the bed and I'm saying, I start self-talking. Because one of the things that I have felt that what makes me feel like an imposter every time I'm sitting at a coaching or a therapy table is when I'm trying to get a client to see something that I know I'm not seeing. To be something that I know I'm not being. So I'm like, I can't be helping people deal with their traumas when I've not dealt with mine.
With yours.
So I sit there and I'm telling myself, I'm having goosebumps talking about it.
Ooh.
And I'm telling myself, deal with it. Deal with it. So I said, Daddy's not here. Daddy's not here. Daddy has nothing to do with this towel. This towel is pink. Daddy has nothing to do with this pink. Pink is just a color. Daddy died because Daddy died. And for the first time, I grieved. I cried like as though my father just died. I was literally shaking. I cried like as though, and then I was like, just first I'm like, Daddy, I miss you. I wish you were here. I wish you didn't have to die. And all of it. From age 7 to that is 34 years.
You didn't grieve.
I didn't grieve.
You were carrying that.
I cried, and then I picked the towel and wrapped it around myself. I kept telling myself, it's just a towel. It's just a color, and Daddy's not in there. It's okay, you can use it. I was speaking out. I was talking to myself. I was charging myself. I was giving myself, because I was like, I have to face this fear. And as I was saying, I literally felt, you know, just when you feel fear, like as though you could slice it. Oh my word. I was afraid. Ooh. And I just kept saying, you can use this towel, it's okay. You can use it, it's okay. And then I just cried. And then I just had a moment of, I wonder what you would have looked like. I wonder what your hair would have been like. I wonder what you would have done. I wonder how, I just wondered everything. I played back to my wedding day and imagined him walking me down the aisle. Oh. I lived every moment. I went through it. I cried. And then I got up and I used the towel that night. Even when I was using it, I was still shaken. But I told myself, I will use it. So what I was like, what's the worst that will happen? I asked, what's the worst that will happen? I said, nothing will happen. So I used the towel that night. And the next morning, when I wanted to take a bath, I felt myself wanting to navigate over the face towel. I just said, no, my friend, pick that towel up.
That pink towel.
So I progressively did that. So even when I got back home and I had my array of towels, I'm like, don't use this pink towel. Show you small. I'm like, use it. So it's a progressive self-talk to get myself out of there. So if I'm ever going to take someone through therapy, I understand it.
You now know it's not going to be automatic.
I understand it. So even with coaching may be different. Because of course I do coach myself through things, but you need to understand some things that you deal with better with experience. Ooh. Truly, there's some things you deal with better. So I am like, I recognize that I had actually been storing trauma, and there are many of us that store trauma. We don't know. So an example of recognizing trauma is how I respond to pink. Oh, pink, ew. When I say all likes and dislikes are learned behavior, they are programming. So if you're able to recognize the program that you are running that made you, I hate short men. Why?
Something happened.
I hate this on men. Why? I hate when people do this. Why? Always question your thoughts. Question your likes, question your preferences, question your dislikes. And then you begin to ask yourself, why do I hate this thing? Why do I like this thing? What has led me here? And just being able to do that would help you break. Recognize where you have trauma and seek a therapist to to help you go through the process, because there's some depth of it. Could be, so there's chronic trauma, there's acute trauma, different kinds of traumas. Just understanding what exactly it is that has traumatized you, and then get professional help to help you navigate the process and get out of it. So I could do it for myself because yes, I am.
You are also being you are
a
trained
CBT trained practitioner, a cognitive behavioral therapy practitioner. So I use my principle on myself first. I use my coaching principles on myself first, and then I'm now able to, from that wholesome place,
help somebody else.
Yeah.
Whoa, like yo. This is just intro. Introduce yourself. Now it's on one masterclass. So, guys, okay. So, in case you're watching me or you're not Nigerian, I mean, sometimes the Nigerian me comes out when I am passionate, when the topic of the day is like entering my body. Okay, so that's why you're hearing like, wait, what? Because this is like amazing. Just you know what is just so fascinating for me is the fact that you have gotten so used to this process that you've mastered the art of asking
questions,
and not many of us know how to ask questions. Sometimes we even just blatantly run away from it. We just don't want to question anything. It's like that's how they say we should do it. Do it. Obey the last command. That's what we just and I feel like it's a coping mechanism because for some of us who have an idea that something is not right, but we're too scared to go look.
We're too scared to
look, right? To say, I don't know what I'm going to see. Would I be able to cope with what I would see, right? Because I even say this personally because, I mean, there are parts of my life like that are zilch right now. I can't reach them. But I know something happened in that period that I do not want to remember. So I've locked them up somewhere, and so they are missing files. But I know they're not missing. They are hidden.
They are hidden files. They just need something to trigger them.
Do you understand?
Have you ever seen a situation where someone says, I don't know how come I slapped her. I normally don't. I don't know how come I used that thing to injure him. I can't even believe I did it. That is because you have a behavioral pattern you're not aware of. And which is why every time I talk about the story of, it's not just enough to know your strengths, be aware of your weaknesses. Because knowing your strengths and intentionally engaging them to improve them, make them better, would position you for a day of opportunity when a window opens. Knowing your weakness and effectively managing learning how to manage it or turn it to a potential skill will preserve you against a threat in the future. Because the weakness you do not manage will become a threat, and particularly at that limelight of your career. That is why I use I always talk about Achilles heels. I have this coaching product where I talked about, it's pretty much I call it an ISWOT: identity, strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. And under the weakness, I talked about threats. I talked about Achilles. Weakness rather. If Achilles had known that his weak point was his heels, he most likely would not have run into battle with so much confidence because he felt it was invincible. If he knew that his invincibility ended where his heels were, he probably would have built a platinum or pure steel something shoe. Bulletproof, arrow proof rather. That year it was arrow, razor. Or probably he would have told his soldiers to say, hey guys, make sure no arrow comes near this leg, because if he knock this leg, all of them don't die. Right? He would have protected his weakness. But you can only protect something or preserve something you are aware of. How aware are you of anger issues, of which may have been caused by traumatic experiences? How are you aware of your personality, such that you know when your thought is drifting and you're like, hey, come back here,
catch it,
and you can say, why this thought? Why am I thinking this? Where is the root cause of this? What is the viability of this thought? If you were going to do a probability that we did in mathematics, if I was going to put this thought and a generally acceptable thought globally, and I'm going to put my thought into that basket of general thought, what is the possibility that I will pick one ball that is my thought? So just being able to do that probability so that you are more intentional about how you think, because thoughts become things. If you're not able to catch it at the thought phase, it's going to eventually marinate to the point where it manifests in your words, and once words come out, they become actions. They become things. Yeah.
Wow. So my question here now, I mean, this is just a beautiful way of segueing into the topic of the day, which is, dealing with trauma. I guess let's just pause there, because I really need us to know, okay, she's talked a lot. You already know that she's a coach. You already know that she's a therapist from this explanation and this story she has told, right? But I really want to say it again, because I know you're going to read it in the description of this video and of the audio podcast. But I want her to explain it again. What kind of coach are you?
Okay, I'm an identity, so I pretty much am a certified life coach, but I specialize in identity and communication coaching intentionally, because from after my certification and just doing general practice as a coach, one of the major things I recognized with the different people I coached in business, I coached in health, I coached in marriage and relationships, I coached in finance, I did all of that. So it's like there's a wheel of life we pretty much follow through peace, serenity, and all of it. And I recognized that one of the major challenges that each individual has in the way they engage in their business, in their marriages, in their relationship with family, with friends, and all aspects of their lives is rooted in their identity. Because it is how you see and believe of yourself that you communicate to engage with people, that you show up with. So my question every time I'm taking any of my communication trainings or coaching, I'm like, do you know how you are showing up? Are you aware of how you are showing up for people to draw from and give back to you? Many times we're showing up from our places of insecurity. We're showing up from our lack of self-esteem. We're showing up from our bitterness. We're showing up from our pain and trauma. And we don't even recognize that that thing is determining how we talk, how we dress, how we behave, how we relate with people, how we marry, how we respond to conflict. But if you can track, why am I angry? Anger is a mask. What exactly is it that is making me do this? If you can track it to self and correct your perspective, you will most likely be able to show up more wholesomely in connecting with people, in relating with people, of which we were created to be social beings. We're supposed to interrelate. So
if everybody is this conscious about themselves,
we would have a better world. Absolutely. So that is why I specialize in identity coaching, and then communication, how to communicate appropriately that identity.
Oh, so good. Guys, don't go anywhere. I told you this is going to be in 2 parts, right? So this is the end of part 1, because I'm going to be right back with part 2, where we're going to dive in, because I really am curious to learn as well. Like, how can we really become aware? Because I think that's where it starts from. At least even be aware. Then you give us 1, 2, 3 hacks of asking that question, of how to question yourself. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I guess this might be the end of this particular episode. And as we are back, it's going to be the next episode. So you probably see us next week, all right? But still, don't go anywhere. If you have not clicked on the subscribe button, please do that now. And turn on notification. Also, share with somebody. We are all walking traumas. Let me just tell you that one for free.
Walking traumas.
So you want to learn how to actually catch it, question yourself, and then gain that self-awareness. All right? We'll be right back.